Amala Duggirala, what's a universal truth for transformations?
The pace of the technology doesn't decide the transformation. It's always the cultural acceptance of a change that sets the pace for the transformation.
All that and more on Transformers. Welcome to Transformers. In this podcast, I talk with friends, colleagues, and fellow nerds about transformations, about challenges in business, and a little bit about what makes us all human. I'm Ann Fanai, CIO and Vice President of Business Platform Transformation at IBM, and this is Transformers, a Think podcast. Amala Duggirala, thank you so much for joining me today. You are head of digital data and technology at USAA. Could you tell me a little bit about what that role is and what it means?
So first of all, thank you, Anne. Pleasure to be sitting on this and then working through your podcast. So I've listened to a lot of them, so I'm excited. And then it's one of those organization constructs where we are working to bring the digital data and technology together and focusing heavily on the member experience and member service. At USAA, we refer to our customers as members, and they are at the center of everything we do. And our ability to bring the experience and then our data and insights and our technologies together to serve them the best is a portion of my job.
Wonderful. No, thank you for that. And honestly, I have such respect for USAA as well. I mean, what you do, servicing, all those servicing those who serve and their families, just really, it might be a financial institution, but I think you guys have really a wonderful, greater mission. So thank you all for doing what you do. So
It is both a privilege and an honor, and I take it very, very seriously. It comes with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, going into interesting responsibilities. So, as we got to know each other and talked about your career previously, you said something really interesting to me. And that is that you've gone through 4 different types of transformations in your career. Could you go into that? Because again, I thought that was super fascinating the way you parsed that out.
Thank you for catching that. It's one of those things, Anne, where when I was younger in my careers, I always felt like transformation was all about only technology. And because growing up as a technologist, being an engineer, from my career, I always thought technology transformation is the epitome of everything. And as in today's world, technology is shifting so fast, those experiences are helping me dramatically. And then it's more of technology modernizations. That was the focus of those transformations. And then as I grew in my career, and then there was quite a bit of a product transformations, because as I went into my ACI worldwide, during my fintech careers, where I was helping many organizations do product transformations, that's when the first time the whole business and importance of business value in whatever we do kind of took over. Are we generating value through these transformations? And that became the epitome of the change at that time. And then came the next phase of the transformation is actually doing the business value transformation itself. And then, bringing the member into the middle of everything, or the customer into the middle of everything. And what is the customer seeing when we transform these organizations? And the last but not the least is the true cultural transformations, because during my journey over the last 4 to 5 years, everything is changing the culture of our behaviors. How do we bring the customer into the middle, or member into the middle of everything we do? And how do I combine, or we combine collectively by partnering with our business leaders, and then bringing the experience, then bringing the value and the service and technology together is what I refer to as cultural transformation. So that's what I was sharing with you when we spoke last.
No, and that's, I think what's really great is, I previously thought this as like components of a larger transformation, but when you separate them out like that, what do you, did you either see any patterns that were common, or conversely, anything that was a difference in approach to get the transformation done?
See, what I felt through these learnings, and I always joke with people every time I start a new transformation, I always say I'm writing a new chapter in the book of transformation. What I felt was when we get extremely focused on one dimension of these three without keeping in mind the culture and then the change management needed, while that focus is needed, meaning that nothing that stops us from doing that technical transformation, that product evolution, that true experience shifts. But if we don't bring it all through a true cultural transformation and keeping the human in the middle of everything, there are two human components. One is the employees or the associates that are making the transformation work, and the member or the customer on the other side receiving the impact of the transformation. That human centricity is what I refer to as culture brings it all together. And then while all three learnings are very critical in one's career, ability to bring it all together through that culture became my true learning through this journey is what I refer to. So rather than saying there are differences, while the learnings were important, having that understanding that at the end of the day, human, either it is the customer or the member or the associate or the employee that needs to get comfortable with that transformation was my true what do you call connector or the connection that I was able to bring it all together.
Yeah, no, so I mean, that's great because I think often it's like, again, my observation experience has been the humans are both the greatest challenge and the greatest reward. So when I was actually before just my phone call right before recording this, I was actually having this conversation about where some of the transformation is working really well, where the people are truly engaged. They're really looking to evolve and simplify. But in the areas where you kind of see a little bit of that, well, like, I don't want to go, you're moving my cheese, you're taking my toys away, sort of things. That culture is, it slows things down and it drags things out a little bit more than it should. It sounds
Spot
like,
on. Spot on. That is what the accelerator is all about. Can we bring them along and can they lead the change? Because when we lead the change from the top, it's a push. When we able to create a change from the bottoms up, it's a pull. And then pull always makes it sustainable.
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because I think some of the there's a lot of research coming out now that, culture changes a bottom up. Like, the worst thing you can do is force it top down. You can just, from the top down, you can show what you value, what you're measured on, what you value, but the culture has to come bottom up. So
Spot on. And here at USA, we refer to top as the vision and the directions to be clear. That sets the priority. And then the change has to come from within.
yeah, no, I love that. And one of my previous guests on the podcast on here was a CTO at a fintech startup. So I thought really interesting contrast is, you are at a fintech as well, just a larger entity. Do you feel like I guess let me compare and contrast, like your experiences at a large company versus for transformation versus maybe what a small fintech is able to do to either supplement, bring to the table, or play a role alongside.
When I was in fintechs, I was always thinking about when I go present into a bank and offer, because top 200 of our prime customers were the banks and insurtechs and all of that. We were like, okay, I have to sell them on a scale. I have to show them how scale looks like. And then every time I actually go sit in a sale conversation or even a technical conversation with one of the larger entities, they always used to ask me how to work like a startup. And yeah, but the lesson that I learned through that last leg of my connecting the culture to all these three dimensions of transformations is all about, can we create pace like a startup and build controls and then capabilities like a scaled entity? That is the power. Is if we can run an organization or do large scale transformations through small startup like assets, but then connect the dots at the end and then create the control environment and regulatory environment like a scaled entity, that is bringing the power of both worlds together, is not to lose that nimbleness. And then here at in the current organization at USAA, a lot of my leaders have that behavioral pattern. Can we go as fast and nimble like a startup, but create stability and scale and then continue to maintain like a scaled entity? That's a win for both sides of the equation. But one can never lose a startup attitude of entrepreneurship, getting things done fast, agility, go move fast and get things done faster. And also organizational learning, our ability to learn like a startup and pick up the new patterns and apply them to the business immediately cannot be compromised.
Yeah, no, and so I've often thought of it, and I think just to really emphasize a point is like sometimes those startups push us, like when we kind of get a little too lost in the large enterprise mindset, but at the same time, that partnership really like it's so mutually beneficial if we can show them like, okay, you got here fast, but here's all this regulatory stuff that comes next. Maybe, I mean, I think it's be really interesting in this space in general because I do see it looks like, and please tell me if I'm right or wrong. I'm dipping my toe into your water here. It's like I think maybe some of the fintech startups are really pushing like the boundaries of AI as well. And I think I would imagine on the regulatory side, I see it with IBM. You've got to be a little bit more cautious about the full adoption. You got to, understand like, where does the data come from? All of your process flows is that what you're seeing? Is like I said, I'm dipping my toe in the fintech land here, but
No,
what do you think about that statement?
you're kind of spot on. It all comes down to doing something for one time or proving out a technical point takes a lot of intellect and lab work and proving it out. But taking that concept and then making it compliant and making it operational across the thousands and thousands of our MSRs, member service representatives, and millions of our members takes a little bit of a thought and a balance and an approach. But again, that is not to slow things down. That is to do things with higher quality, showing compliance all along the way. And then, like you said, focusing on data quality and the platforms in such a way that whatever we do on top of them is always compliant and then actually hits the regulatory requirements. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these regulations is to protect our members, protect our associates, protect the balance that we have to create in the cycle of protection, our consumers. And as I said, I always have been a strong believer of bringing that entrepreneurial attitudes of pace and speed and processes and procedures and tools to maintain that pace without compromising the quality and compliance is the art of the game. And that's where the transformation need to always focus on is how do we do that with the modern technologies, modern capabilities, modern protocols, and last but not the least, teaching our associates those skill sets.
Absolutely. I mean, that's that culture bottom up too, like that culture of learning and the like just really diving into experiences and staying current. Well, and you said something kind of interesting in the middle there, which was, talking about what's under the systems. Like that's all got to be good before, you start putting things on top. And I think I had a quote that I think I said in a moment of frustration, but I actually it's one of those you like where when I said AI on top of crap is still just faster running crap, right? And but what I mean by that is really exactly what you said. Is it's so important to understand getting your systems right, your data right, or else what you think is a hallucination is actually not a hallucination potentially, right?
We can exaggerate or propagate a small thing at a faster pace if we don't get those foundations and the foundational quality capabilities right. You're spot on. In the world of AI, the one who focuses more on building the right quality constraints, building the right controls, building the right foundations, actually wins the race at the end than the one who think that going at pace and ignoring all that matters. And that's where, the winning is always that slow, steady, risk-averse, thoughtful approach.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the area you're working, it would be maybe the ERP space of any other company where you have your, your FinSig, your Sarbanes-Oxley types of requirements. Absolutely, and because it's one of the balances we have is like sometimes AI is okay as a Band-Aid or a simpler system, but you have to have the slow and steady. So, and you guys, you've really gone through a lot there too in your seat. USAA has been very much an exemplar for get the systems, get the data correct. Is there what was you went on a big journey with that. Could you talk about that? And some of it's a different set of challenges, I suspect, than the broad scale transformation.
I'm actually a big believer that going at pace and compliance is a practical possibility in any of the organizations. And at USAA, being digital first, we've always been digital only. And it comes from quite a bit of an awareness of our ability to know our member in and out through the data, their life events through data, our ability to capture all of that and serve them. And then also our design principle of exceptionally impressing them at every interaction we make with them, because we believe they deserve it for what they offer to what they are serving. And then our ability to serve them means so much more to us, to delight them at every interaction. This all comes with an extreme focus on what my job is, bringing those digital experiences with the data insights and then the technology evolution, combining them on a day in and day out basis, and partnering with our business leaders to provide them assets and products and tools for them to be able to delight our member at every interaction. And that's exactly. So it took us quite a bit of a structured approach of modernizing our systems. Our last 5-year journeys have been a large scale modernizing our technology systems, and then also reinventing our experiences to be able to create that through that journey. And then our investments into data platforms over the last 4 years, focusing heavily on the quality of the data and then the hierarchy of the data to be able to prepare ourselves, is giving us that perfect platform to move at pace while meeting all of our compliance and regulatory dimensionalities. And that's the reason I always talk about those three combining together, and then the culture of enabling each and every one of our associates to be able to have that clarity of those design principles, what is right. And that way, we are not stopping them every day, but we are enabling them every day through this journey is what matters.
So, as you answer that question, I was thinking, IBM, a lot of times folks forget that we are software and hardware and consulting. And USA is in a very similar spot too, crossing not just, you're not just a fintech, you cover other areas like insurance. How does that impact, AI, regulatory? Like, how do you balance all of that for the different industries you cross?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It's comparable to IBM situation. We have member in the middle, and then we actually focus on serving the full financial spectrum of member needs, the banking, advice, and we have life insurance and also the property and casualty insurance. Our challenges are probably similar. At the same time, regulatory focus is also pretty intense. Our attitude so far and always have been our ability to do things with agility without compromising quality and compliance at every junction. Our focus heavily relies on having appropriate controls, governance constructs, and having strong foundations. That way, what we build on top comes with the pace and the quality that we require to be able to stay compliant and manage the pace. Again, I heavily talk about having strong foundational infrastructure, strong foundational quality, and strong foundational controls and compliance frameworks to be able to go with pace. So it's almost like build the right approach to go with pace is how I refer to it as.
No, and that's, it's fascinating because I think a lot of times the more I'll say internally focused jobs, like the jobs we both sit in, you forget that you do still service an end user, just maybe more inside the company than out. Obviously, with the data mission, you're seeing a lot of external as well, too. But it's, one of the things I have been saying to my team is like focus on creating a beautiful experience for our seller, a beautiful experience for how can we make an accountant's life easier, right? Like, is there ways to make it, simpler through that? So I don't know, I might steal a little bit of that for the staff meetings when we have those bumps, because I think that's a real great learning moment. So thank you for sharing that.
No, even like one of our CEOs, the past CEOs, actually coined a sentiment that if you don't see the member, move your chair until you see the member. It's one of those things where it is very important to understand how you directly or indirectly what you do matters to a member.
Oh, I love that. That's
Yep.
awesome. That's awesome. And so, what else I find interesting about kind of your career and your journey is you've lived on all but one continent, I believe. You've just not lived on Antarctica. You've lived on every continent except
I
Antarctica.
did, I
You've
did,
worked at
yes.
large companies, small companies, startups. What have your experiences been with transformation or transformational projects, even across those? Like, what do you see? Like, what do you see across different industries? What do you see across different geographies? How have that sum total of your experiences come to come to bring what you have today in seat.
No, I've always been one of those lucky people to be able to have those wide variety of experiences and cultural. Very, very young on, I was able to see different continents and behaviors of different engineers across the world, different product behaviors. I would say what I started with at the beginning when you asked me the question, my ability to realize that at the end of the day, it is the associates, the humans that are actually making things happen. And then my ability to realize doesn't matter which continent, which country, which language, which person it is, when they are not motivated and engaged from inside, then things will not move forward. So the universal coding language of connecting with humans and then the universal algorithm of making them, motivating them in everything they do is probably the one lesson I learned after my journeys across different products, different organizations, different continents. And that's truly, I actually joke with the people, is that is my algorithm. Is if I cannot get them and they don't believe and they don't understand why very, very clearly, it's not going to move forward. So that is probably what I refer to as the universal language of human is, are you able to motivate them or not?
Yeah, no, it's, I feel such a kindred spirit with you because I think everything goes back to the human again, whether we talk about us being human in this podcast or just, having empathy for what, your end user, your customer, your client is going through and just that same empathy now with that global lens and all different sizes. It's like,
And also, Annie, like one other dot I connect because we always talk about our associates and our members, and we actually, the big part of my journey, sitting in the chair that I sit, would be my business partners and my GMs and PNL owners, all my colleagues. Even the same thing applies for them because at the end of the day, there is a motivation or a focus and a goal that each and every one of us trying to hit. If we actually can connect those common threads that make those goals happen, and then actually empathize with each other and say, why is somebody resisting change? Because what goal will not be hit? Versus why is somebody bound to changing something? What goal are they trying to hit? I think that is exactly where I think not only it works well with our members and associates, it actually works well with our business relationships and stakeholder management is having that human connection that strongly brings us all together. And then can we all talk about what is the goal you're trying to hit? What is the goal I'm trying to take? Where is this friction coming from versus where is that associated common thread? I think that is also something that I learned through several varied experiences across the world also.
and I feel like this, I wanted to kind of wrap here with a little bit of a kind of personal question anecdote, but I feel like you hit a lot of it. I was going to say, you've talked about your experiences, what you've learned from other people in the role, but is there a pivotal moment in your life, whether career, personal, that really you feel like has shaped you to have the approach and mentality and, again, clearly living around the world, everything's been transformation your whole career. Like, is there a moment that really drove you and kind of turned you into who you are today?
Oh, there are actually several moments, but I'll actually coin two specific moments that helped me to, like that aha moment that helped me to do that pivot bottoms up versus top down pivot. Um, one was raising a daughter. I have a lawyer that just graduated last week. While
Congratulations, by the
yeah,
way.
thank you, thanks a lot. While raising a daughter, and then you actually connect the dot to the changing needs of young generation and what are they getting motivated by. And then as you are in your professional career and actually having a whole bunch of teams at different diverse points across your career, it actually became very, very important in both of these scenarios for me is listening to what they're saying. And then the importance of understanding when you listen to them, be intentional about are they committed to the change? Are they not committed to the change?
Mm-hmm.
The
That's like
moment
a
you
words versus actions. You hit that.
exactly.
Yes.
If that listening, my biggest learning has been if I can detect that they're committed to the change, that project is always successful. It took the learning that I had working in my telecom days during the British telecom, where we were doing one of the global transformation of replacing PSTN switches with voice over IP networks. This was like decades ago, right? And then I saw that spark where when they connected the dots that future is inevitable, nobody could stop that project. But until the time that we were able to connect the dots, that future is coming, and then that future is inevitable, there was a huge resistance. And then I think that turning point, the importance of everybody working on the project to see that collective future, then the energy that comes with it and the number of solutions or options that come with will trump one solution I came up with. Is the true realization that, oh my God, I mean, the number of options I had once everybody realized the value of the project were actually 10 times better than the few options I came up with when I was seeing that vision without them on my side. And that is the true learning for me is ever since all I did was make sure they understood the vision, they understood the why, they understood the value of it, and then wait for them to come up with options and solutions. And that inclusivity was a turning point of my career, for sure.
That's incredible words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing them. And, Amala, thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the podcast today. Absolute pleasure. And I absolutely learned some new things from you today. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you. And I think it's a pleasure. IBM has been my partner for all my evolution of my technology journey. And your intention to humanize these transformations and is also very powerful. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah. And we're only 90 minutes down the road from each other. So we will have to find a time to grab a coffee halfway in between.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for joining us today. Hope you learned a little bit. Hope you enjoyed a little bit. And we hope to see you back in a couple weeks.